Welcome to Sociology Vibes, where we simplify challenging ideas into easy to understand insights. Today, our focus is on the sociological explanations of habituation and institutionalization to help us understand how sociologists think about societies and social behaviors. Sociologists, Austrian-born American peterberger and Slovenian-born Thomas Luckmann, introduced the concept of habituation in 1966 while studying how everyday reality is socially constructed, which means that social reality is created through shared actions and interactions among people, not something that naturally exists on its own. In sociology, habituation refers to the process of becoming so used to social patterns and behaviors that we stop noticing them. Habituation happens when repeated actions and behaviors become routine and eventually feel natural rather than social, taken for granted and assumed rather than questioned. Berger and Luckmann argued that society develops as we interact with people, and patterns are passed from generations or among generations. As these patterns repeat, they become socially constructed habits. For example, in a classroom, students raise their hands before speaking, follow a syllabus, and select the same seats each session. These behaviors become normalized through repetition. In workplaces, people follow schedules, respond to emails in certain ways, and understand unspoken expectations about productivity and professionalism. Over time, these patterns become so familiar that we rarely question them. In sociology, the concept of habituation is important because it shows how social life becomes predictable and stable. But it also means that it is easy to overlook that these routines are created and can therefore be challenged and changed. What feels normal in everyday life is often something we've simply gotten used to. When repeated, behaviors are shared by many people and expected across a group or society. They become institutionalized. In sociology, institutionalization is the process by which habituation turns into established rules, structures, and expectations for normal behaviors. Let's look at a few examples. Long before cars, people developed habits like staying on one side of the road to avoid collisions. In the US, this dates to the 1700s with horse-drawn wagons. Over time, this habit became the norm and eventually turned into institutionalized formal traffic laws that people follow. During the industrialization of society, people worked 6 and 7 days a week. In the early 1900s, the labor movement pushed for more time off, and eventually, as a 2-day weekend was adopted by companies, it became institutionalized when businesses, industries, and labor policies began organizing around the 5-day workweek. Employers set fixed schedules, schools aligned their calendars, and government labor standards supported these norms. What started as a repeated practice became built into how society organizes time. In the United States, tipping was adopted in the mid-1800s by wealthy Americans who traveled to Europe and brought the practice back with them. After the Civil War, this practice spread as it benefited restaurant owners and railroads to have employees rely on tips instead of paying them in full wages. As more people continued tipping, it became expected. Over time, the system was built around tipping and laws that supported the structure. Connection between habituation and institutionalization can be seen across society. What starts as repeated everyday behavior can become structured, expected, and built into social systems, including laws, policies, expectations, and traditions. Once institutionalization occurs, these social patterns become embedded in society, and this makes change difficult. However, just because a social pattern becomes institutionalized, it doesn't mean it's fair to everyone. Women are often expected to take on more childcare responsibilities, and this is habituation. As these expectations continue, they begin to shape workplace decisions around hiring, promotion, and pay. This is institutionalization, where a pattern becomes built into social systems. Sociologists refer to this outcome as the motherhood penalty, where mothers are seen as less reliable employees, leading to fewer opportunities and lower pay compared to men. Habituation and institutionalization help us make sense of our own experiences. For example, if you feel pressure to meet certain expectations at work, school, or family, you can recognize that those pressures come from established societal patterns, not personal shortcomings. And this helps us from internalizing blame. Instead of thinking, I'm not doing enough, you can see how expectations were socially constructed over time. And that makes sociology worth exploring further, don't you think? Thank you for watching. Be sure to comment below with your thoughts, questions, or any topics you'd like us to explore next. Let's keep the conversation going and our community growing. See you in the next Sociology Vibes video.